You're good.
Yeah, there's more people out in the lobby there. Do we have anybody in the overflow?
What?
Do we have anybody in the overflow?
No.
Good afternoon, everyone. The Delaware County Commissioner meeting has been in recess, and we are convening again at 1:30. And Jennifer?
Resolution number 21-495. Final hearing to address the Kingston Township number 2017 watershed drainage improvement petition project.
So moved.
Second. Discussion. Vote.
Vote on motion 21-495. Mrs. Lewis is absent today. Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Resolution number 21-496, in the matter of approving for a specific occurrence a suspension of Rule 3 speaker registration, Rule 4 limitations, and Rule 7 public comment procedures from the rules governing public comment before the Board of County Commissioners of Delaware County, Ohio.
So moved.
Second. Discussion. Vote.
Vote on motion 21-496. Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, everyone. I'm going to take my coat off. It's getting warm in here. We're having air conditioning. It's not working properly, so I apologize, but it's going to get warm. Okay, with that, I'm going to kind of give a little summary of what's going to occur today, and then from there we will begin the process. Welcome to the final hearing for the consideration of the Kingston Township Watershed Drainage Improvement Petition. There's a sign-in sheet outside the door, and if you have an opportunity, you should sign that. Did most of you sign it as you came in? Okay, good. So here's an overview of what's going to happen. We're going to hear a summary of the final hearing report from the county engineer and Soil and Water Conservation District. Copies of the county engineer's report, including a map, were mailed to the landowners. The county engineer and Soil and Water Conservation Districts will then cover a presentation on the project. This presentation will include additional maps, current photos, photos of the path of proposed construction, and pictures of similar construction to better illustrate what is being proposed. This presentation will also include a sample amortization of a construction assessment to illustrate what an 8-year repayment may look like, an explanation of maintenance assessments, and an illustration of what a percentage collection means. Following the presentation, there will be a time for questions from the Board of Commissioners. The Board will acknowledge receipt of any exceptions to the assessment or claims for compensation or damages that were filed with the Clerk of the Board of County Commissioners. Those speaking for or against the project must be either an owner, as defined in Section 613101 of the Revised Code, or an attorney speaking on behalf of an owner. During testimony, you'll be asked to take an oath. And I emphasize, you need to be an owner or an attorney acting in behalf, so please keep that in mind. When it is time to offer testimony, we will work our way through the participants, and testimony will continue. If new information comes up or additional people wish to speak. After the testimony, the board will close the public hearing, or the board may choose to continue the hearing based on what we hear today. After listening to testimony and the report of the engineer, the board will decide whether to find in favor of the improvement, affirming the order, confirming the maintenance assessments, and approve the payment schedule, or the board may dismiss the petition by setting aside the order. The board considers the following in their decision: whether the board hereby finds that the proposed improvements is necessary, that it will be conducive to the public welfare. The board also finds that it is reasonably certain that the cost of the proposed improvements will be less than the benefits. With that, I'm going to turn this over to Soil and Water to give a presentation or update.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Brett Bacon, Delaware Soil and Water Conservation District. We'll go through a brief presentation about the project for some deeper information, and then be happy to answer any questions the board has. Okay. So a quick project timeline. The original petition for the improvement was filed by Mary Beth Millick and others for the Kingston Township number 2017-1 watershed on September 1st of 2017. The petition specifically requests commencing in Delaware County, Kingston Township within the Kingston Township number 2017-1 watershed, and generally following but not limited to the course and termination of the existing improvements. It also further goes on to ask to generally improve the drainage, both surface and subsurface, to a good and sufficient outlet by replacing, repairing, and or altering the existing improvements as required and or creating new surface and subsurface drainage mains or laterals as requested by this petition. On November 20th of 2017, the Commissioners conducted the view for the project, and on February 22nd, 2018, the first hearing was held at which the Commissioners directed the County Engineer and the Soil and Water District to proceed to survey and engineering. The Kingston number 2017-1 watershed is approximately 129 acres. This watershed is 31% agricultural, 32% woodlands, 35% rural residential, and 2% road right-of-way. The original petition was signed by 5 distinct landowners representing 5 of the 22 parcels in the watershed. For purposes of design and assessments, the project's been divided into the main and lateral number 1. The main will consist of surface grade construction, subsurface drain installation, rock channel protection, private drive culvert installations, and tree and vegetation removal. Lateral number 1, as you can see there on the map, will consist of surface grade construction and subsurface drain installation. We have a drone video that starts at the top end of the main, if it'll start, and it will continue downstream. So we're flying basically over top of the proposed center line. This is Kilbourne Road. We're getting close to crossing over. And here we're going to turn and look back upstream. This is looking from the junction of the main and lateral 1, looking back upstream the path of lateral number 1. And then continuing back on down the main. And that would be the junction with Little Walnut Creek right there.
And when was this?
Early April, I believe the second week of April of this year. Some representative pictures of design and construction elements, rock channel protection. These are from previous projects, just to give an idea of what it may look like. This is a surface drain, grassed swale. A breather on a tile system, reseeding following construction. Project cost estimate, the main is estimated to cost for construction $68,769.50. Administration, construction inspection, drainage maintenance pay-in, $12,389.20. Contingency amount of $11,451.24 for a total estimate of $92,609.94. Lateral number 1 for construction is estimated at $21,876 even, Administration, construction, inspection, and drainage maintenance, $2,668.70. Contingency, $3,506.40, for a total estimate of $28,051.20. Calculation of assessments. The revised code instructs the engineer to calculate assessments to property owners based on the benefits received. It further goes on to quote, say that lands that have been removed from their natural state by deforestation, cultivation, artificial drainage, urban development, or other man-made causes shall be considered as benefited by an improvement required to dispose of the accelerated flow of water from the uplands. The formula used to calculate the assessments is acres benefited times a land use factor times percent use equals the parcel assessment factor. The parcel percentage share is then derived by dividing the parcel assessment factor by the sum of all assessment factors, and the parcel assessment is then the parcel percentage share times the total estimated cost. Landowners have a couple different options to pay an assessment if the project's approved. They can pay the full assessment up front within 30 days of the final hearing, in this case by July 7th, 2021, also giving notice by June 28th, 2021. The assessment can also be placed on the property tax bill as a special assessment. Having the assessment placed on the property taxes will include interest and other fees if the project's bonded, and auditor treasurer collection fees. We'll run through a quick example here. This example assumes no upfront payments to the project. The total estimated construction cost, all parts, minus direct assessments, equals $120,661.14. The average assessment, not including right-of-way, is $4,601.70, or a 3.8% share of the project. Debt issuing fees, bond counsel, bank, things like that, $8,000 estimated. Bond interest, 4% estimated, equals $4,826.45, giving us a total estimated cost, adding all those figures together, of $133,487.59. 3.8% share of this total estimated cost is $5,072.53. 2% of that collection for auditors and treasurers' fees would be $101.45, giving a total assessment for the average parcel of $5,173.98. You can see if you take that figure, divide it out over 16 semi-annual payments, assuming an 8-year collection schedule, gives us a payment semi-annual of $323.37. Bidding and construction. Approved projects are advertised for public bid, with the lowest and best bid being awarded the contract. Projects like these are not subject to prevailing wage, and bids may not be accepted in excess of the final hearing engineer's estimate. The final schedule of assessments is reduced pro rata by the difference between the estimated cost and final cost, assuming the final cost be lower than the estimated cost. Upfront payments in this case would receive a refund. Drainage maintenance. ORC 6137 requires projects to be placed on drainage maintenance following completion of construction. The purpose of maintenance is to keep the project operating at its design capacity, and maintenance funds are also collected as a special assessment to the property owners. Common maintenance activities would consist of inspections, seeding, repairs, and erosion control, among other things. Maintenance assessments are determined based on the final schedule of construction assessments. Most of our projects average between 2.5% to 5% annually on the collection percentage. This percentage can vary depending on the maintenance needs of the project, and drainage maintenance is perpetual. That assessment will be on the project forever. So going back to our amortization example, with the construction assessment average of $4,601.70, times in this case, for example purposes, only a 3% maintenance collection plus the 2% auditor treasurer fees, we would have a $140 annual maintenance assessment. So if you look the first 8 years of project collection, a average parcel would have a construction assessment collection as well as the maintenance collection, and then once the project would be paid for from a construction standpoint, would only have the maintenance collection. Cost benefit. Benefits of drainage projects exist for both agriculture and residential properties. Benefit to agricultural parcels is realized by the increased yield as a result of good drainage. Estimated yield increases given the soils in the area would average 46 bushels per acre for corn and 14 bushels per acre for soybeans, given the appropriate drainage improvements are in place. The USDA average crop price from 2019 to 2015 for corn is $3.81 per bushel, and for soybeans is $9.26 per bushel. 31% or 40 acres of the land in the watershed is currently agricultural. And you can see on our calculations, this would lead to an average annual increase of $7,010.40 for corn and $5,185.60 for soybeans, giving us an average annual benefit, assuming an equal split of crop rotation, of $6,098. Benefits to residential parcels focus on quality of life, neighborhood perception, and home site sewage treatment systems. A failed home site sewage treatment system can cost $15,000 to $25,000 to repair or replace. New developments average between $1,000 to $3,000 per lot spent on providing adequate drainage outlets. Given the 12 residential parcels in the watershed, this would assume a $12,000 to $36,000 benefit at minimum. The board has several decisions before it today. You can approve main and lateral 1. You can approve main and deny lateral 1, or you could deny all parts of the project. Approval of any part will require setting a repayment period and whether to bond, confirming the schedule of assessments, and ordering the project be advertised for competitive bid. If the decision is to deny the project in whole, it is recommended to distribute costs incurred to this point to the landowners in the same ratio as determined by the final schedule of assessments. The estimated costs to date are $5,000. The engineer's recommendation is stated in the final hearing report. For purposes, I will read it today. Based on all of the information gathered and generated, I believe this project, as proposed, is technically feasible and would serve as an adequate outlet for the drainage needs of the watershed. Furthermore, the parcel assessments for this project are within the range of assessments that can be expected for a project of this scope. The testimony brought to the Board of Commissioners by the landowners as to whether the benefits of this project exceed the costs should be given significant consideration in the decision to move forward with this project.
Thank you, Brett. I'll open up to questions from my fellow commissioner. Do you have any questions at this point?
Well, not at this point. The report's very helpful to go through the slides in the report we've read, so I do have questions as we proceed.
And I have no questions at this stage either. We are going to, some representative of the county engineer's office is here. We have an exception, as I read to you, the board will acknowledge receipt of any exception to the assessment or claims for compensation or damages that were filed with the clerk of the Board of County Commissioners. I'm going to ask the representative of the county engineer's office to come forward and why don't you introduce yourself first of all?
Commissioner Merrill,
Could you remove your mask, please? But yes.
do you want to accept that exception for consideration before we move on to?
Do we need
the
a-
engineer? Yes.
Okay, good call. So, go ahead.
Resolution number 21-497, in the matter of the Delaware County Board of Commissioners accepting for consideration the exception to the assessments filed by Charlie Ruffett and Honduras Farms LLC for the Kingston Township number 2017-1 Drainage Improvement Petition Project.
So moved.
Second, discussion? Discussion, and we go ahead and vote and then have the discussion. Eric?
This is merely to accept the filing, and it'll become a part of the record, and then you can have a discussion as to whether
With
there are
that,
merits to it.
vote.
The filing was done in compliance with the rules. Or
The,
policy.
the person who submitted the exception was the owner on the date that it was filed, and it was filed in time, and it meets all of the statutory requirements in terms of content. Yes.
With that understanding, call for vote.
Vote on motion 21-497. Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
So with that, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself, and then I'll have a question for you. I may go ahead and swear you in just as precaution, because there could be some gray area as far as what you're going to share with us. So first of all, give us your name and
Brett Bergerford, Deputy Drainage Engineer with the Delaware County Engineer's Office.
okay. First question I have for you, have you had an opportunity to read the request and evaluate it?
Yes, we have.
Okay. So with that, I'm going to swear you in. I may. Brett, do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Okay. With that, would you go through your analysis?
I prepared an exhibit also for you guys.
Thanks, Brett.
Honorable Commissioners, upon evaluation of the attached exception claim that was dated May 25th of 2021, that was filed by David Shade Attorney for Charlie Reffett and the Hondros Farms LLC, our office recommends denying the request for the 100% reduction for costs associated with the Kingston number 2017-1 drainage improvement project. This decision is based upon the following. One, the drainage work identified within the claim does not satisfy the intent of the petitioners. Two, surface flow and subsurface flows will continue to drain into the Rybov, into the Kingston 2017-1 drainage improvement project. Please note in your attachment that that was meant to be Kingston. And three, lack of perpetual easement and maintenance per Ohio Revised Code, Section 6137, will not be provided to the private work identified in the claim.
Thank you, Brett.
Again, I apologize for the typo in that.
I'm sorry?
I apologize for the typo in that document.
Do you have any questions or?
Is now the time to go through questions of the engineer?
Or do you have anything you need for clarity, or are you comfortable with what you've heard, or if you are, we'll proceed?
I have a few questions. Would this work affect the lateral at all? Or,
Let me just make sure, lateral number one, right?
Yeah.
This work, as we applied, in our evaluation, applies to the main that's extending north to the north of Kilbourne Road.
Okay. You did mention the Ryboff. We do have another ditch petition in process in this area, and that's the Ryboff, I think number 620 is that one. Was part of the improvements done on this property included in what is the Ryboff ditch petition area? I noticed that the parcel that the work was done on extends beyond this drainage.
It falls into an adjoining watershed.
Yeah, an adjoining watershed. So part of the work was done in an adjoining watershed, I guess.
I'm not sure because the exhibit that was provided to us just showed and the folks from Soil and Water may be able to weigh in a little bit better on the extent of the work. From what I could gather from the exhibit that's included within the packet I gave you.
Just for my information, on this map, where's the
This-
property we're talking about?
This is the map this is the map that we were provided.
That was with the letter.
Okay,
It's got the three lines. It's got the lines that they did, the work where they did the work.
thank you. I have no questions at this point. I'm going to ask,
I have some more.
yeah,
Still.
I
You have
apologize,
more
go ahead.
questions. Sorry. Was this work that was done, would that be considered part of the work that is being proposed?
No, it's my understanding that the work that was performed was for the sole intention for the subsurface drainage component to get that portion of that parcel subsurface drainage, or a portion of the subsurface drainage out of this watershed.
Does the tile work that was done have any impact on the water flow south of Kilbourne Road, on the other side of Kilbourne Road?
It's primarily subsurface drainage is for the subsurface flows. There still is going to be a surface drainage component associated with all watershed hydrology, as well as there is some contributing parcels, from my understanding, to the west of identified properties that still would need to drain into the main, which would extend north of Kilbourne Road.
Okay, okay. That's all I got.
Okay, I have no question this time. I'm going to, I don't know whether somebody with the Shade and Shay's office is here to speak. I think it'd be an appropriate time to come up, and you've heard the reasons why we think it should be denied. The county engineer's office thinks it should be denied, so here's your opportunity to come up and share with us why you don't believe that's the case, if you want to. Give us your name and what your role is, and then I will swear you in.
Okay. My name is David Shade, Shade and Shade, 236 West Central Avenue, Delaware, Ohio, 43015. I represent Charlie Reffett and Hundreds Farm LLC. One of the issues...
Let me swear you in first. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Proceed.
What I was about to say is that some of these issues should probably be better addressed by Mr. Reffett, who is personally familiar with them. He is here.
Okay.
And in fact, my letter kind of speaks for itself. The drainage line runs all the way to Little Walnut 151. But I think it would be best if he explained how he thinks the drainage is impacted, because he is there. I'm an attorney. I listen to him. It's kind of hearsay when I say it. Let's listen to him. Charlie?
Okay, I need to swear you in.
Sure.
And first, give us your name
It's Charlie Reffett,
and your address.
4826 Baker Road, Delaware.
What road was that?
Baker?
Thank you. Here, raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Proceed. I do have a question. Are you, at the time you prepared this, were you the owner of the property?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so there's been a drainage issue there on the north side of the road for a lot of years, and I'm assuming that's why it was petitioned. And I apologize to everyone for getting in the game so late on this, because we bought it and then I was trying to solve a problem and I didn't know what all was going on with soil and water at the time. So we went ahead and ran a tile line all along the north side of the road, and it outlets into the Little Walnut, I believe, and down to the east side of the property on the north side of the road. So I believe that the issue for the whole north side of the road there is actually on the south side of the road, by the ponds, by the construction with the trees, etc. As soon as that main came through underneath the road, we actually cut it there and tied the main into our tile line. So all the water that is going down through that old main, because there was a problem to the south and I wanted to address it, we went ahead and diverted it east. So everyone could probably agree, looking at the north side of the road, it's dry, and you could see the fabulous work my tile guy did on that drone footage. So it's definitely flowing out of there now. And I'm not sure exactly, I heard the engineer talk about how the water, the above ground water would flow down through the main there, but you have a road. I don't know exactly where the tile's at that he's referencing, or the culvert that would send it under the road, but any of the water up on top of the ground should flow into the ditch on the north side of the road and should flow east, as far as I know.
Okay, is that your testimony?
Yes, sir.
Its entirety? I'm going to ask for county engineer to come back up and provide some clarity, please. Thank you. I'm going to give you what my layman's summary is, and then you should tell me where we're right, wrong, or indifferent. one of the concerns that, one of the comments I heard made was that the water's still in the watershed, it's still got to be dealt with. That's using layman's terms. What work's been done here, does that change that, or is that still the case after you've heard the testimony?
The work that he had performed on his property,
Correct.
I think in order to satisfy the intent of the petition, being that we have petitioners who would sign the petition, satisfy the intent of the petition, the work as we've proposed at this final hearing still needs to move forward.
I'm not sure I understand the work he's done does or does not,
Does not satisfy
Okay.
the intent of the petition.
and, okay, I believe that answered that question. So you heard nothing that changes your view?
No, sir, I don't.
Okay. Commissioner Zip?
Yeah, so Brett, maybe saying it another way, does the work that was done in that parcel ease or does it change the flow downstream at all? In other words, yeah, it may take the water out of that parcel, but it just puts it right into the main.
It removes a subsurface component,
I'm sorry, what?
a subsurface, a tile component
Yeah,
contribution to the main, but it doesn't completely remove the subsurface component that's going to be introduced to the main if the petition moves forward, as well as there would always need to be a surface component to allow the surface drainage, because according to our records, we have twin 24-inch culverts under Kilbourne Road in this location. And so that is how the water gets conveyed from the north side of Kilbourne Road to the south side of Kilbourne Road. And a component to what we've proposed at this hearing for the construction is a surface swale to allow that drainage north of Kilbourne Road to drain south to an adequate outlet.
so the surfaced water that flows through the main really isn't being impacted by this tile work that's been done in that parcel? Saying it another way.
The surface flows that are being introduced into the main
Yeah,
are not
being impacted by the fact that tile was put in the field, the one parcel.
again, as he indicated, he placed subsurface tile in his field and tiled that out of the watershed. So there's a component of the soil water that is going to be leaving the watershed. There's no denying that. However, there will be other soil water that will make its way to the main as part of the design that we've presented today.
Okay, so the surface water, some of the surface water is still going to be directed through the main. And
Correct.
Be taken out of the watershed that way.
Correct.
And so
Because when it rains, 100% of the water doesn't sit on the surface of the ground and go into the subsurface tile. When we get a rain event and it generates runoff, it runoffs through a surface flow.
okay.
It still has to be addressed.
Correct.
It was mentioned by Charlie, my colleague Charlie. He said it diverts east, but the question is, it's still in the watershed? His testimony was it diverts to east, the water that's being collected?
It breaks out of the water. My understanding, the subsurface tile that you ran easterly along Kilbourne Road breaks up and out of the watershed that we've shown on the exhibits today.
Okay.
And if you would, sir, if you'd like to address the exact alignment along Kilbourne Road. Sure. Is there a way that we can pull up, I'm not an AV guy. You just have to run this. I'm looking at it, but it's not up there.
I think it would be easier to look at the drone.
The
does the drone capture the entire alignment all the way along Kilbourne Road?
No. Why is it not playing?
Looks like maybe slide 5 for how it goes.
Oh, Jen, you need to put me up there. There we go. Apparently I'm not AV compatible either.
Brett, you want to talk us through?
Yeah,
Could you
so,
just pause it here? You see
Yeah.
the marks in the field, is that the work that you did?
Correct, so those are the laterals, but if you let it go a little bit more, you'll see right where the main is, right there at the bend. And you can see a breather, if you stop it there, there's an orange pipe. So that's where the main goes under the road. So there was so much pressure on there that when we cut it and tied it into ours, it ran for 3 days. And that's all the water coming from the petitioner signers on the north side of the road that was backed up into them and backed up on us. So none of the subsurface water goes south of the road any longer. And and sir, if you don't mind showing me where the culverts are, is it, oh, it's right there. Is that what it is there? Right
yeah,
behind
I
it?
guess I'm gonna have to pull, I won't show.
Yeah, they're hard to see, looks
So
like.
the road culverts are right here.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, right there. Those are twin 24-inch culverts. So-
Okay, okay.
So the water is going across the road at that culvert, correct?
Yes,
The-
above ground water.
The above ground water.
Yes.
The subsurface water just continues on east in subsurface pipes, as I understand.
Again, I have not inspected the work that was done. It's not part of the petition. It's not a public improvement.
Okay.
I take your word on that it is accurate.
Oh, you can-
Yeah,
you can see it.
But I can't 100% say that I've inspected the work or had one of our staff inspect the
Yeah, this is
work.
unusual. We don't typically get
Like-
one of these, so we're asking questions that may seem simplistic. But that water is leaving that watershed, it's going to another watershed, so it still has to be dealt with, correct? In theory. The water he's talking about under, it's just a question, I'm not.
Has to be dealt with from what
What
perspective?
I heard Charlie say, you said that the water is traveling on the, it's not crossing over the subsurface water, correct?
Correct.
It's going on downstream on that side of the road.
All it's doing is entering the creek further upstream a few hundred yards, entering the same exact creek.
In the same watershed?
Not in the same
Different
watershed.
watershed, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, where it enters, it's in a different watershed and flows south and then into it.
Map, yeah.
We'll show you on the map.
The main is what I'm saying, wouldn't need to extend under the road to the north, because it wouldn't, I guess I've already tied into it, I've already addressed the issue.
Okay, here's a bigger picture.
And in order to, north of Kilbourne Road, we did have a couple signers of the petition also. So in order to satisfy the intent of the petition, from their perspective, we would have to extend the surface and subsurface to their properties.
Crosses there.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's open.
But that's a different watershed, right?
different watershed, yeah,
So,
yeah. Do you have any idea when a rainstorm happens, how much water would exit the watershed by virtue of the subsurface, and how much would exit by virtue of the surface?
You know, we've ran some rough calculations based upon agricultural drainage. I don't know what they designed the system to, but we designed it to a 3/8 inch drainage coefficient. I evaluated for a 3/8 inch drainage coefficient. I'm not sure if that's what you had designed the system to or not, Mr. Ruffin.
I never checked on that. but-
Okay.
And you might want to explain what a 3/8 that means.
3/8 inch rainfall goes into the tile, the rest of it goes off overland. And based upon our rough calculations, the overall watershed in the subtile, and again, these are, pardon my, if need clarification, just please let me know. The overall watershed at a 3/8 inch drainage coefficient is 2.02 CFS, that's flowing in that tile. For the parcels that we've looked at as part of your claim, parcel number 3 is contributing about 0.21 cubic feet per second to the tile, to the main, and then parcel number 12 is a much smaller parcel. It's only 0.525 acres, and it's contributing 0.08 CFS. So if you run the quick numbers, you're looking at roughly 15% of the total contribution to the overall main subsurface system as part of our project that we've designed.
So said another way, you're saying roughly 15% of the water in a rain event is being diverted through the subsurface?
Roughly 15% is of the subsurface tile drainage is being added to from these two subject properties. That's not calculating out the surface flows that are above and beyond what the subsurface tiles can handle.
Okay, so roughly 85% still has to be dealt with.
Through the main drainage system?
Correct.
In a general sense, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
And you're talking over the overall, 85% of the overall property, right? Not 85% of the rainfall.
We're saying of the total cubic feet per second,
It falls on that property.
with that, for the overall watershed,
Okay.
for the overall watershed, that subtile system that we've designed and presented today is designed to handle roughly 14% is what these two properties are contributing to it. That doesn't mention the properties that you said, you know, again, the two petition properties to the west that signed the petition, that have asked for the main to be extended up that, that is not factored into it. We did not evaluate the claim based upon all those parcels in that vicinity.
Thank you. Stay close. We may have another question in a minute.
Okay.
Sure we will.
Take this a step. We've heard from the county engineer, and does not see merit to the request. Is there anyone else who wants to speak on this topic?
We're not quite finished.
Okay. Wait, up here if you're going to talk.
So, Charlie, go back up. So what effect, in your opinion, Charlie, has the drainage work that you have caused to be done done to the surface drainage on your farm?
It's completely solved the issue. You can see from the photos, all the water pooling up, and this year it's night and day different. During the 2.5 inch rain event we had a couple weeks ago where the entire east end of the farm flooded, there was water standing there and it was gone within 48 hours, which the year previously it would take 2-3 weeks.
And the two parcels that are marked 10 and 16, are they also significantly drier as a result of the work you did?
Yeah, and I don't know that
I'm
answer.
not, if you don't know, you don't know.
I don't know that answer, but the amount of water that's coming out of there, it should be.
Well, we can't deal in theoreticals.
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
So I appreciate your comments.
Yes, sir.
And I saw a hand in the back. I assume somebody wants to speak in favor or opposed to what you've heard. Come to the podium, introduce yourself. And
Do we need to finish on the exception first?
I think it has to do with this issue.
Or does it have to do with the exception?
I assume you want to talk about this issue, correctly? Yes. Okay. Give us your name and your address, please.
Hi, Richard C. Condoff. I live at 8839 Kilbourne Road. I am parcel 16.
15. I always appreciate
16.
somebody telling us that.
16?
That helps.
16.
15, right?
16.
17?
16.
16.
16.
16.
That one right there,
16.
Okay, gotcha.
right next to the parcel.
Okay, do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Proceed.
Okay. I've lived in this property for almost 4 years. I've got a couple of photos that were taken the afternoon of May 9th
Of this year?
of this year. I've got a video that shows me driving west on Kilbourne Road, where where 12 and 3 a lot of water, and you know, if you want to see it. So this was post improvement on the drainage that they put in, so there's still water there.
Okay. So you're contradicting the testimony that was given on that topic?
Yes. These are photos of what happens to my front yard.
When were these taken?
Last year, before the work?
That's, when it's dry, that's the one photo. When it's wet, that's the other photo. My video and this picture is May 9th.
The day we got 2.5 inches.
2.5
of rain.
inches.
Yeah.
Yes.
But these were taken before, so just for the
Correct.
record. Okay. Anything else, sir?
I am in favor of this petition. My ground is perpetually wet.
We'll get to that in a little bit.
Yeah.
Right now, we're just talking about whether this request has merit or not. So,
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, I'm done.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Okay.
I have a question that maybe
Well-
someone wanted.
You need to come up here to ask your question. And I have a question about Eric when we get through here.
Angela Destheimer, I'm at 9050 Kilbourne Road. And my question, he didn't have the answer. Soil and water.
Are you going to give testimony, or are you going to just ask a
I
question?
just ask a question for now, I'll
We'll
give
try that.
testimony
Okay, go
later.
ahead.
Do you know what size tile the project is calling for? The current tile is 8 inches. So it's going to require a larger tile than what exists?
Yes, in certain sections,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, thank you. Eric, we can go ahead now and listen to the testimony further and then decide what we're going to do afterwards? Or do we have to make a decision on this before we proceed?
You will just need to make a ruling as to the exception before the end of the final hearing. So if you want to proceed with testimony from other property owners, you can do that.
Yeah,
If you need any additional information, or if you'd like to view the location again, you have all of those
Okay.
options, whatever you decide.
I think it'd be better to wait till we hear all the testimony than have that conversation, okay? So does everyone understand, we've heard the request, we're now going to discuss the petition in its entirety, and then we will evaluate what we will do or will not do after that, okay? So with that, do you have any questions before we proceed?
No.
With that, I'm going to ask for anyone who wants to speak in favor of the petition to come forward, introduce yourself, and we will swear you in just like we've done previously here. Anyone who likes to speak in favor, please come forward.
Hi, I'm Mary Beth Malik at 8908 Kilbourne Road.
Okay. Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Proceed.
We were here at the prior hearing, and you've heard my testimony about what a disaster our property is. We can't use the front yard. most of the year. The septic system is unusable in the spring at all because of what we'll need for that lateral. But I do have a question. When I got this report, and I don't know if Soil and Water, the engineer, can answer that, is the lateral or the main only goes to the east side of my property. And I'm not sure how that helps my property, as opposed to going across it to the adjacent property, so that it would help. I can't tie into anything if it doesn't come across my property in any fashion.
Okay, so you support the petition?
I support it in
And
general.
then I'll have Soil and Water come up and clarify.
Yeah, because I'm getting hit with 20% of the cost of this thing, and I don't see the benefit in my front yard.
Which parcel are you?
I don't have my glasses on. I'm the big one, 22? 19, thank you.
19, okay. Oh,
And the other thing that I want to reiterate that Angie Dustheimer raised last time we were here, which was the whole point of this, is if we don't have this ditch petition accomplished, all of us are going to try and do whatever we can on our own and make a horrible mess in the end. And that we do need this construction coordinated effort from the county to help resolve everybody's water problems.
Okay.
Exactly.
Direct
Exactly.
your questions here, please.
Exactly. So, and as far as the exception, I'm with Rick. I saw the water. It stayed for a while. It didn't help. And I respect Charlie's opinion, and I respect what he tried to do to his property, but again, that's part of the problem. It's not a coordinated effort. Charlie is not an expert. We didn't hear any qualifications that he should have any consideration in excess of the engineer's testimony, who are the experts on this project. So I would recommend that you deny that exception. I do want you to vote for the petition, but I would like to have some more information as to how this is going to positively impact the front half of my property.
Okay, we will ask that question. Just a
Thank you.
second. Do you have anything else to add at this point?
Not this time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Soil and Water, somebody want to come up and address this issue with the main, whether this will resolve the problem? And I do recall the viewing. I do recall how wet your property was at the viewing.
Daniel Barr, Soil and Water. This was designed, basically, Mary Beth's property there was the last signatory on that section in the watershed. So bringing the project up to her lot line so she would have access to it. She can tie in, make additional improvements on her own property, but there was nobody further west in the watershed along her sections to take the project through her property. So it'll be access, they'll be stubbed on your property, you can tie into it. But to continue it clear across would only benefit those single petitioner. It'd be only a single parcel benefit at that point. And the revised code says that we just simply can't do that.
But your testimony is that there will be a place that she can get that water to.
Absolutely, both in the front and the back.
Okay.
And just further question, Dan. So by virtue of what you're proposing, that work alone won't really help?
It'll have some impact. The surface grade and the tile's been accounted to pick up anything that would be already there. So what little drainage was functioning due to it failing downstream, it'll be tied into good. It'll function as well. Surface grade, to make more grading improvements, water will be able to drain out of there more effectively. But there may be additional work that each individual landowner will have to do. Again, this is kind of we're building the highway. There's going to be additional work for each landowner that they'll have to do to make the most out of it. It's not the silver bullet that will solve everything, but it will help in the grand scheme of things.
And it does provide a tie-in place in a reasonable fashion.
Correct.
Okay. Anything else? Does that answer your question?
It answers my question, but it raises another issue as to the percentage assessment. You know, I'm getting $21,000, and I'm still going to have to invest another $21,000 to get to that small access on the side of my property, as opposed to other property owners who have the benefit of the thing going all the way across their property, and they can tie into it at different spots. But be that as it may, that's how I look at it. But
you understand?
I understand what he's saying. I do.
And you understand we're guided by the
Yes,
law?
yes,
Okay.
I understand that.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else who wants to speak in favor of, just a second, just a second. He takes priority.
Sorry, just to answer the previous question about the tile size, we found the copy of the plan. I knew it was here somewhere. It's an 8-inch pipe upstream of Kilbourne Road, so the entire north part of Kilbourne Road is an 8-inch tile. Downstream of Kilbourne Road, it's an 8-inch tile until it gets to the junction with lateral number 1, where it changes to a 12-inch tile.
Aren't you glad I let him go first?
Yes.
So you get your answer. Okay. You want to come forward? You're speaking in favor?
Yes, sir.
Your name?
Angela
I'm
Dustheimer.
sorry,
Angela Dustheimer,
and your address again.
9050 Kilbourne Road.
Which parcel number is it? 18?
15.
15, okay.
15, and I did
No,
not swear you in
excuse me,
because
it
you
is
just had a
18.
question last time.
It is parcel 18.
18.
18?
15.
Well,
Are you right next to Mary Beth, or are you?
No, I am not.
So it's got to be 15 then?
Yes.
Okay.
okay. I need to swear you in since we didn't do that earlier. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Proceed.
Again, we signed the petition. We are in favor of the work that needs done. Hitting again on what Mary Beth said about all the property owners that are involved. 25 years ago, all of this was farm field. So you would have been dealing with 2, 3, maybe 4 property owners to come to agreement who are familiar with the scope of the work and what would need done. In addition to the existing homes, parcel 3 and parcel 12 have been subdivided for sale, and several of those are in contract. One, I saw the sold sign. If we can't pass this petition at this point and do the work, you're going to have even more people involved in the decision-making process down the road as the work that is there from 100 years ago continues to fail. We don't have an excessive amount of water that sits on our property, but we do have that main crossing our property. And where that main is, we get several blowouts. We've replaced it with black tile ourselves. Whether that can be incorporated into the work that exists or that will be occurring, the contractor will have to make that determination at that point. If it doesn't work, then the contractor can replace it. If it does tie in, then that will be a reduction in the overall cost that we've already put up front that everybody else can take benefit from. I also had a question about tying in. There's a 4-inch tile that crosses the back southwest quadrant of our parcel, the driveway for Blumels, which is parcel number 5, and then parcel 18. That is not working. I didn't know if, since that would cover multiple parcels, if that would be incorporated into this, or if the 3 of us would need to replace that on our own.
Is that in the lateral 1 area?
It is not in the lateral 1. It actually crosses just on the driveway access for parcel 5, but it holds a lot of water. We can't mow that. Their driveway holds water, and the blowouts are in our pasture, and it's making it
I'm not going to answer
unsafe.
that question because I don't have the knowledge, but it could be in a different watershed. So I'm going to ask that Brett come forward and clarify if he may. You can just step aside, let him respond. Maybe.
It starts in the wooded area here, crosses their driveway, and comes down and ties in at our property line.
Okay. So just as a general rule on any project like this, any tile that's cut or disturbed as part of construction or installation of the new tile would be connected automatically to the new tile. Sometimes those are missed just because they're old. That's part of drainage maintenance to make sure that those do get tied in. My speculation is that tile's partially probably not working because of the condition of the main itself. That may indeed alleviate all the problems. If it does not, it would be up to you and the other property owners to, if it's somewhere beyond connection with the main or a problem with the main, it would be up to you guys to do that.
So Brett, where is it on the map?
Oh,
If you can just point it out.
It starts, now I'm upside down.
Yeah.
So here you are.
Yeah, we're here. It starts there, crosses their driveway, and then comes across, and then ties into the main down on our property line. I don't know that I have any further comments at this time. For the most part, we are in favor of this so that the entire area can continue to flourish.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak in favor of the petition? Please come forward.
Hi. Sandra Carroll.
Jan?
Sandra,
Sandra,
yeah. 8966 Kilbourne,
8966.
yes.
You know what your parcel number is?
I don't know what my parcel number is, but I'm right between Mary Beth and Angie.
Could someone give us that parcel? 18?
That would be 18.
Yeah.
It is helpful as we look on the map to be able to,
Yeah, I don't have
discern.
it with me, unfortunately.
so you're the one, you're between these two.
Correct. Mine is also the property with the culvert
So
on
you
it.
keep them out of fights and everything because you're in between. As a joke.
So mine is the property with the culvert on it.
I'm going to swear you in.
Sure.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Proceed.
Okay. So my property is the one with the culvert on it. I have exceptional amount of flooding on my property. The surface water is just unbelievable. When you look at the property, you can see a line, kind of a curved arc that goes around. That area I call the moat, because to me, that's what it looks like. It is so flooded. The front of the property gets extremely flooded. I've not seen any relief from any other work done at this point. I also have on my property a personal observatory. That observatory, because of the groundwater or the moisture that's in it, my pier and building have lifted, and I'm in the process of rebuilding them now. The damage just did them in. That's about $12,000 to $15,000 worth of work to my observatory.
You say conservatory or observatory?
Observatory.
Okay.
So astronomy.
I thought that's what you said. Well, maybe I misunderstood you.
Yeah. So there's additional damages occurring on my particular property due to this. My main point is, and obviously I'm in favor of the petition, is that if something's not done for me, I don't know what I'm going to do. This groundwater problem that I have with it is going to continue. I have trouble. I can't mow the yard sometimes because it takes days, sometimes even a week or more, to dry out enough to where the mower's not getting stuck in the mud. Okay? If you've ever driven down Kilbourne Road, you can tell my property. The entire front of it just basically gets flooded, and you can see the line going around to the back. From there, it goes across to Angie's property. John's driveway gets wiped out with water. It's just, I don't know what to do. I'd contacted I believe it was the county's engineer's office many years ago before this started, and I was basically told by them at that time that there's really nothing I could do. Until something was done, I just couldn't deal with it on my own. The water would continue to come in.
Thank you, Sandra.
Okay.
Have you noticed any change this spring? It's been,
Not so far, no. When I first got the house back in about 2009, it wasn't as prevalent, but it's been getting worse every year. And I haven't seen any change in it this year. Okay.
Okay.
thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak in favor of the petition? In favor of the petition?
Yeah.
Okay.
My clients support good drainage. This area clearly needs drainage. Our contention in our letter isn't that this petition shouldn't be granted. We think it should. We're just saying we don't get a whole lot of benefit out of it.
Thank you. Yes.
It's Richard C. Condoff again at 88.
I have, that's where you want to go? I don't believe it, did it? Okay. Proceed, Richard.
I would just like to say that we moved into this property 4 years ago, and if we had known how bad like the pictures that I left with you, we probably would not have purchased the property. It's been an ongoing problem. I've had soil and water. Dan, you've been to my place, I don't know how many times, at least three, on 3 different occasions. There's nothing that you guys can suggest that I do as a homeowner to really fix the problem. So back to Angie's point, this entire area needs this project to go through for it to benefit all of us. And I think, you know, we're even hearing that, you know, they're not opposed to the project. But, you know, we've been dealing with this problem over and over and over. I asked Dan before I put the pond in, I said, Dan, do you think the pond is going to solve some of the problem? And he said, well, it will until your pond fills up, and then it will just completely run, you know, all over the place. And it has continued to do that every single time that it rains a big downpour. And that May 9th storm, I mean, it was unbelievable. I could not believe the water that went all the way down Kilbourne Road, all the way to the creek.
What kind of damage have you had on your property? Just standing water, basement, any other issues, or just standing water?
The house, prior to my ownership, the house did flood. The basement flooded. You can see it. As I have not had any flooding to my house yet. That doesn't mean that, you know, it couldn't occur at some point. So no, I've not had any property damage as of yet. But to your point about mowing the lawn, it's impossible. When it rains, I mean, it's a swamp. It's a swamp. So.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak in favor of the petition? One last time, is there anyone else who'd like to speak in favor of the petition? Okay, with that, is there anyone who'd like to speak in opposition to the petition? Whoever wants to come up first. No, you too.
I was going to say I'll only swear in if it doesn't apply to me when I get home and am with my wife.
I'm sorry.
I'm just kidding.
Okay, it was a joke. He said with a straight face. Could you give me your name first?
My name is Fred Talbert, 8776. I am partial 20, I believe.
20?
The top farthest over on the south side.
Very well. If you raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Proceed.
Sure.
Give me your name again, sir.
Fred Talbert.
Fred, thank you.
Sure, thank you. Lateral one, I mean, I'm the longest person that's lived there. I'm sorry, not lateral one, the main. I could speak to, it's always been wet. It's been wet since I've been there. That's just, I mean, what it was when we bought. I don't really have a foot into the main. As you can see, my property doesn't really drain onto the main. So mine was lateral one. And there was after the first hearing, the engineer, I think, came out with Bill, and we were with Bill, the neighbor who owned, I'm looking at his computer, so sorry, who owned 22, and I'm 20. And we stood out there, and it was a winter day, and the snow was falling, and you could watch the snow fall from, which would be Mary Beth's driveway. Her driveway is raised. You could watch the water flow from her driveway all the way over and into my pond on 20. I mean, you could see the snowflakes fall on top of the water, and all the water just kind of come across. It was like the perfect day to have somebody from the engineer's office out to see how the water drains, because you have this visual of light snow. And so to me, the question begs, you know, if we've seen this and we know that maybe Mary Beth isn't as responsible for all this, because some of this comes my way in her front yard, you know, I'm being assessed, it's not a whole lot, it's $3,500 or something like that, to drain back part of my woods, which has always been swampy, always will be swampy. There's not a whole lot, just because it potentially could go into lateral one. And like I know, because I live there, that there's a high spot that runs right down the middle of my property. So I kind of question the lines. I know they're drawn by satellite or by percentage or whatever else, or whatever voodoo engineering that we come up with. I don't mean to, but like knowing that there's a high spot that runs in the center of my property, I'm kind of wondering why you know, the property is conveniently right at the property line, and, you know, is it, I guess I don't understand how it's drawn if, you know, it's high in the middle. and-
So your question is not so much you're opposed to petition, your
Not
question is
opposed to the
whether the
petition,
water
I'm-
is flowing,
Right.
you're,
And I'm opposed to lateral one if, no, I get it, I'm sorry. I'm more opposed to lateral one because I'm like a lover of reptiles, and so the spring peepers come out. I don't want that swamp drained. I mean, there's great salamanders out there that are pretty rare in Ohio. I didn't really have time to look it up, but, you know, when we first moved out there 20-plus years ago, we were finding, you know, my kid and I were out there with nets, and we were finding salamanders and just different things that you don't expect to find in a, thank you, sir, in a place in Ohio. I mean, it was very diverse, the flora and fauna, so I thought lateral one was like canceled, but I mean, if Mary Beth really wants it, then that's fine with me, but I just was feeling that I'm gonna get hardly any bang for my buck because you're talking about my deep woods, and you know, we enjoy them, and they're always dry by July. So, you know, to me, the benefit, you know, doesn't really weigh the cost. And then my question is how the lines were drawn, because, you know, I feel like there's a high spot right down the middle of that, and you know, the surface water will go either way then, so.
okay, thank you. Brett?
Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
So just a brief explanation of the yellow line. The yellow line is drawn on the high spots. It's the watershed line. It does denote the position where water would break one way or another. I wish I had the map from the first hearing. Originally, the watershed for this project was drawn larger than what we show for this final hearing. As we've commented to the board many times in the past, we're very limited in the field work we can do prior to a project being approved at the first hearing. Our watershed line is based entirely on automated tools, and so one of the things that we do post first hearing in the survey and engineering phase is to evaluate that watershed and make changes if necessary. A lot of times that watershed does not change very dramatically. This is one case where it did. The watershed was, I'll say, reduced in size, primarily on parcels 22 and 20. After meeting with the landowners, after doing some visual observations, we did revise the watershed to remove portions of those properties from the watershed because we determined they no longer, or they did not drain into the project.
Which did reduce the cost.
Correct. The acres benefited for those properties was reduced based on that watershed line adjustment.
Okay. Thank you. Proceed, come on. I had to make some notes, so you were very patient with me.
My name is John Blummel, and I own parcel 5.
Hey, John, if you raise your right hand, do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Proceed.
First, I'd like to point out that we extensively tiled my back ag field in the last 5 years, so there's only 3 people getting any kind of benefit from what I can tell from this lateral. And for me, it's really not going to help me much. The other thing is that my assessment, I guess because I'm one of the larger property owners, is probably 2 or 3 times more than everyone else's. But the only section of the main is right across my driveway, which is about 1,000 foot. And I don't know how they determine the assessment, but I'm just against the project as it's currently drawn up.
I'm going to give you my layman's, because I've been through this a number of times. Basically, the amount of water flowing off your property is how that's determined. Is that fairly accurate? We've been through this a number of times, and that's really how it's determined. The water you're impacting the watershed with is how that's determined.
And I'd like to make one last statement. Given the amount of construction, residential especially, that's going on in Delaware County recently, there's an awful lot of people moving into this watershed. And I was just wondering if it'd be possible, if you're going to go ahead with it, to postpone it a little bit and refigure your formula so you can include all the new people that are going to be building in here and benefiting from this project rather than putting it on the backs of us original landholders. I'm not saying for a long time, and I'm sure the developers are gonna be against it, but they can sell a lot of their lots, and then when the project goes through, then they can really reap a windfall, because until then, this project would have been, or their lots would have been underwater, or often. On top of that, like I said, the original landowners will be footing the bill for this drainage project, and I can tell you in the next 5 years, it's gonna be built up considerably. It's already taking place. That's all I got. If there's any questions.
Do you farm the back part of your property?
I'm sorry?
Do you farm the back part of your property?
Yes, sir.
Okay, it looked like open farmland.
And then there's a small amount of woods.
Okay. John, thank you very much. And I don't think I have any other questions for you. Anything you, Soil and Water, want to add, or you're good? Okay. Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in opposition?
Lastly, right here.
Okay, just a second. I assume you want to speak in favor, so you'll get that opportunity, but, okay? Yes.
Okay, so, and I just wanted to clarify what he's talking about. I did parcel off and I have some lots getting ready to sell, or they're in contract on the north side of the road. And the last thing I'd want is to postpone this and deal with this longer. And just so everyone has peace of mind that I do know what I'm doing and I'm not sending water your direction, I've given each of those buyers an easement on the 8-inch double wall pipe, which is what they have said it needs to be on the north side of the road. So all that water, or all that pipe, is more than sufficient to drain the north side of the road. It was never my intent to give anyone else any water issues, and that's why I've done it the way I have. So I'm all for these people getting their drainage. I can't imagine what they're going through, but I don't see the benefit from it on my end. Thank you. And just so you guys know, I spent $16,000 fixing that. No one can look me in the eye and tell me it's not better this year. Not one person here. Not on my side. Thanks.
Thank you. I'm going to make sure I get the, your comment, I think it's John, right? Again, I'll give you a layman's answer. I'll let the technicians give a technical answer. The assessments are determined based on the amount of water you put into the watershed. So whether you have another 2-3 houses built there, it doesn't change the math. Is that fairly accurate, Brett? Or you want to clarify that?
Yes. As with any watershed in Delaware County, obviously there are portions of Delaware County where the land use is changing very rapidly, sometimes day to day. For the purposes of calculating a schedule of assessments, we have to have a cutoff point. And that cutoff point is when we decide to sit down and, it comes time in the process to calculate the schedule of assessments. We have to evaluate our schedule based on what the land use is on that day. Obviously, that land use can change going forward. For the purpose of construction assessments, it's calculated on what it is today. Should that land be sold and divided up, that assessment goes with the properties. So
Their share of it.
Yeah, their share of it. So, if that assessment is not paid up front, which the landowner obviously has the ability to do and to absorb that cost on the upfront end, there would be no construction assessment. The maintenance assessments would continue to go along with the project based on what the resulting, or I'll say the child parcel's share of the original assessment was. There is a process through the revised code that gives us the ability to reevaluate that schedule of assessments every 6 years. And as part of that, if there has been a shift in land use in the watershed, then we can, to use a really non-technical term, rework the schedule of assessments to account for those differing land uses at that time.
I assume that's done infrequently?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
Anyone else who'd like to speak in opposition to the petition? Okay. I saw one hand raised. I assume you will speak further in support of? Yes. Please come forward. And you are being sworn in.
Yes, I just want to respond to a couple of comments about being against the petition. Last time we were here, I gave you pictures of what the back of my property looks like, where the water flows from, I think it's Fred Talbert's and the new owners to the west. And it's a swamp. It's unusable 12 months of the year. I mean, you just can't go back there. And given that the water's there, it isn't draining. If it's draining on the other side, it would be dry, and it's not. So I need help. As far as Mr. Blommel's comments regarding the lateral, we all have easements. Everybody on the south side, in their deed, is an easement that we have granted to every other property owner in that 13 or how many houses subdivision that was divided, where we get to drain water onto the other property. And that is how that was designed before Mr. Blommel lived there. That pond drains from 2 swales across the front, behind my house, front of my house. It takes care of my septic. There's a special lift station, goes into the pond, and it comes back out, and it was draining across that property in a natural swale until somebody filled it in. And so now it backs up. I don't know if it was purposely done. I'm not saying that. It could be the farmer having farmed it for the last 7 years or 8 years, but it is blocked. I can't not get the lift station to work, and it blocks up over my septic, and if I don't get this help, I don't know if there's another space on that property to put a septic in. And that is the problem back there, and that is why I need lateral 1, and that is why even if I can't get a benefit from the main, I still need the main because it supports the lateral 1. Thank you.
Thank you. And I recall we did the viewing, also your front yard was flooded because you were building some building out front, as I recall.
I built a big barn for 2
Yeah.
horses that, yeah, it's a mess.
Okay. Is there anyone else who would like to speak either in favor or opposed, since we're kind of wrapping up this part of it? Okay, Commissioner Benton, I will open it up. Do you have any observations or comments?
No, nothing further.
If you believe we're prepared to make a decision, we'll need to close the hearing first. And
Do we close the hearing before we deal with the exception here?
You can close the hearing in terms of closing testimony. That's what the resolution closing the hearing does.
Okay.
You still have all of the decisions that you'll need to make before you can complete. the
we can
final.
make that as one decision, or do we have to break it out into 2 different? Do we have to?
You will have to make a ruling on the exception at some
Okay.
point, yes.
Very well. So I guess the question is, do we want to close the hearing for the purpose of testimony? And are you making?
Yeah, unless there's anybody else, last call. So, okay, everybody's been very helpful and well-prepared, so we really appreciate that.
Okay.
Resolution number 21-497, in the matter of closing the public hearing to address the Kingston Township number 2017-1 watershed drainage improvement petition project.
So moved.
I'll second it. Discussion? Vote?
Vote on motion 21-497, Mr. Benton.
Aye.
Mr. Merrill.
Aye. Okay, that brings us to a discussion and evaluation of what we should do going forward. Do you have any comments?
I think we need to address the exception first, Eric. Okay.
Yes.
Um,
And there have been resolutions prepared to allow the exception, which would then require a reworking of the assessments. We'd have to continue the hearing. Also prepared a draft to deny the exception, at which point you could proceed with your decision on the main and the lateral.
Yeah. Okay, I guess I'm at the point where I would ask the clerk to read the motion to deny the exception.
Okay. Please read the.
Resolution number 21-499, in the matter of commissioners denying the exception to the assessments filed by Charlie Reffett and Hondros Farms LLC for the Kingston Township 2017-1 drainage improvement petition project.
So moved.
And I'll second. Do you have any comments you want to make?
You know, again, the experts, our engineer's office, prepared a report that says that it wouldn't really help very much in terms of addressing the petition. And so I put a lot of credibility in that. And so I guess that's the basis of my recommendation that we deny the exception.
Yeah, I guess the only thing I would add to that is I admire and respect the fact that a considerable amount of money was put into this, but I don't see how that changes our purpose here today. And so I also feel the same way as Commissioner Benton. So call for the vote.
Vote on motion 21-499. Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
And that brings us to the second issue. So I would ask that we read the petition, motion to support the petition.
Resolution number 21-500, in the matter of finding in favor of the improvement and affirming the order for the main part of the Kingston Township number 2017 watershed drainage improvement petition project.
So moved.
Second, discussion.
Yeah, again, I really appreciate everyone coming and doing the background work and taking a good bit of a day out to address this. I mean, it was clear when we were out there that there is a real problem in this watershed, you know, from the flooding, from all the other issues. So the viewing was very instrumental in this particular ditch petition. We see a lot of these. So again, there is a real problem. I heard a lot of, you know, testimony. You know, unfortunately, these things are expensive to fix, but they do add value to the farmland, the houses that are there, and so on. So I do support moving forward with this, because this is an area that really needs to be fixed from a water drainage standpoint.
Pretty much echo the comments that have been made. The board has to consider three elements: whether the board hereby finds that the proposed improvement is necessary, that it will be conducive to the public welfare, and that reasonably certain that the cost of the proposed improvements will be less than the benefit. I don't think there's any question about that from the testimony that's been given. And I think ultimately that all of you will ultimately benefit, although I understand the short term, why there could be reservation on the part of a couple of property owners. So with that, call for the vote.
Vote on motion 21-500. Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Resolution number 21-501, in the matter of Commissioners confirming the assessments, approving the payment schedule, and ordering the letting of the contracts for the main part of the Kingston Township number 2017 watershed drainage improvement project.
So moved.
Second, discussion, vote.
Vote on motion 21-501. Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Your wish on the lateral? Would you
Yeah,
like
that's
me
right, we
to-
need to do the lateral as well. I would ask the clerk to read finding in favor of the lateral.
Resolution number 21-502, in the matter of finding in favor of the improvement and affirming the order for the lateral number 1 of the Kingston Township number 2017-1 watershed drainage improvement petition project.
So moved.
Second, discussion. Anything to add?
No, not really, it's all.
Okay. I think we really kind of clarified how we do it, and the same criteria applies. So call for the vote.
Vote on motion 21-502. Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Resolution number 21-503, in the matter of the Commissioners confirming the assessment, approving the payment schedule, and ordering the letting of the contracts for the lateral number 1 of the Kingston Township number 2017-1 watershed drainage improvement project.
So moved.
Second, discussion, vote.
Vote on motion 21-503. Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye. I believe that concludes our business for today. If there's nothing else before us, we are adjourned.